over the last 3 weeks, Myrnohrad has become one of the most active and vulnerable areas in the broader Pokrovsk-Konstantinovka line. Russian forces increased long-range strikes, intensified pressure toward Kurakove and the Marinka axis, and gradually shifted the operational focus close the Myrnohrad-Pokrovsk urban cluster. At the same time, Ukraine has been reinforcing this entire sector with additional defense belts, drone coverage and expanded artillery position. Today we break down everything that has happened around Myrnohrad over the last 3 weeks and what Russia is trying to achieve, how Ukraine is responding and what the next phase may look like. Myrnohrad is not a frontline town, but it's a critical logistical hub feeding Ukrainian defensive lines and stretching toward Pokrovsk, Novavdivka, Kurakove, and the entire western Donetsk axis. Also geographically tied to the same supply arterias that support Ukrainian operation on the Toretsk, Avdiivka and Ocheretny directions. This is why Russia has escalated pressure in this area over the last 3 weeks. So 3 weeks ago, the first week, we saw a noticeable increase in Russian glide bomb attacks, S-300 strikes, Lancet drone activity, and these strikes target industrial zone at around Myrnohrad and Pokrovsk, logistics nodes, warehouse areas, and the fuel storage locations. So Ukraine responded by dispersing logistics, recruiting convoys to secondary roads, and increasing counter-battery activity. During the second week, Russia intensified tactical pressure north and northeast of Myrnohrad, specifically in Novopokrovsk, Ocheretny, Vozdivka, and Yekenivka. So Russian infantry and assault groups attempted to push Ukrainian forces away from K3 belts that serve as a buffers protecting the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad zone. Ukraine deployed additional drone reconnaissance teams, reinforcing several trench lines west of Okternya and Novopokrovsk. The third week saw the heaviest Russian use of aviation in this region since early autumn. So they're using a FAB 500 and the FAB 1500 strikes increased. Multiple S-300 missiles target logistics. Artillery activity intensified from the Horivka and Yasnovata directions. Of course, there was even the several strikes hit areas near Myrnohrad that targeting rail agents, warehouse, fuel depots, supply vehicle clusters, and the power infrastructure. And the Ukrainian units response with counter-battery strike around Yasnovata and Mikhailovka, drone attacks on Russian logistics nodes, and increased fortification efforts around Myrnohrad's perimeter. So over the last 3 weeks, 3 developments became decisive. First, the Russian attempts to disrupt Ukraine. Russia is not trying to storm Myrnohrad, but it's trying to make Ukrainian logistics here unreliable by targeting fuel, storage, transport clusters, supply lanes, and the repair facilities. So they aim to complicate Ukrainian reinforcement cycles in the Pokrovsk sector. So they even increasing the pressure on the Myrnohrad-Pokrovsk urban line. So the corridor between Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad saw increasing drone strikes, including Lancet attacks, Shad attacks targeting infrastructure, and reconnaissance drones mapping defenses. So Ukraine respond with improved coverage and dispersal of equipment. Also, they doubling Ukrainian defensive preparations. And the last development is the doubling Ukrainian defensive preparations. So Ukraine constructed additional trench layers, hirded dugouts, concrete reinforcements, and backup logistic points. So this significantly reduces the lethality of Russian glide bombs. Russia's goal is not to storm the Myrnohrad, but it's to turn Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad into a semi-isolated defensive pocket by cutting the roads, forcing Ukraine to reroute supplies, intensify strikes to degrade infrastructure, and even the stretching of Ukrainian manpower westward. Successful, this would weaken Ukrainian cohesion across the northern and the central Donetsk front. Yes, I want again to remind you that all information you are hearing here is the geolocated movements, the weekly evolution of the Myrnohrad area, the strike patterns. All this comes from network of reliable sources like satellite feeds and frontline analytics. So this level of details is not available in mainstream media. This is why I built our private community, where I share a lot of more interested in things as a daily battlefield maps, frontline updates in real time, geolocations, verified intel, strategic weekly forecast, and exclusive briefings on available publicity. So if you want to understand the war on a professional level, for less than $2 per day, you will find the link in the description. Yes, now let's continue. Based on the last 3 weeks, we see that Russia continuing aviation strikes near Myrnohrad, likely focus on logistics and infrastructure. They in Okeratne and Novopokrovsk, so these areas influence the safety of the Myrnohrad corridor. More drone activity along the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad line, Lancet and Recon drones expected, and even the Ukrainian reinforcement of defensive belts expect rapid trench building and relocation. Also, the high chance of infrastructure strike, like energy and logistics node, remains target for Russia. What can happen in the next couple of days? So based on the last 3 weeks, we can think about that. First, continued aviation strikes near Myrnohrad, like focusing on logistic and infrastructure parts, or increase the Russian pressure near Okeratne and Novopokrovsk. So these areas influence the safety of the Myrnohrad corridor, or more drone, of course, activity along the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad line, like Lancet and the Recon drones expanded it. We can also expect the highest chance of infrastructure strikes, like energy and logistic nodes. All the times they remain a main targets right now. Large territorial changes, I think, are unlikely, but operational pressure will remain very, very high. As that is the complete detailed picture of the Myrnohrad sector over the last 3 weeks, a complex battlefield shaped by aviation, logistic disruption, and even steady pressure on the Pokrovsk corridor, but not rapid territorial movements. The next week will show whether Russia pressure involves into a broader push or whether Ukrainian defense continue to absorb the momentum. So thanks you guys for watching, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next report.